So today I have the pleasure of speaking with Seema. Seema, would you like to introduce yourself to the community?
Hi, my name is Seema Kazmi. I am the owner of a very, very small business called SK Tuition Zone. My primary objective is here to help. That is my mission statement. I work with members of different ethnic groups. So they could be African, Black African, they could be Asian, Chinese, Polish, you name it. Basically, it's to support people with either visa applications, with their studies, the driving theory test, which is a nightmare if you don't know how to speak English fluently, and also the Life in the UK test. If somebody's ever had a go at doing the Life in the UK test, they'll know that it's quite challenging. And help people with CV writing and cover letters, and also, where appropriate, interview skills.
Amazing. When did you start and how did you start? So many questions.
Well, I started my business way back in August 2011. And it was a response to personalize the content of lessons, because prior to that, I had worked in the FE sector. There were a lot of cutbacks in ESOL, which is English to speakers of other languages. And the sort of bottom line was that I had one day at the college and then 4 days thinking, what do I do with the rest of my week? And a friend of mine suggested, why don't you set up a business in my premises? And I'm still here.
Fabulous. And
Yes.
is there a moment on reflection of all of that time where you've kind of got one of those moments that you could share with us of success?
My biggest success is getting better results than the college. I set up with my he was basically effectively my business mentor, and he said, what would you like me to do? I said, I'd like you to become an exam center. So he did, because they were an educational establishment to begin with. And I had more students one year doing exams through my SK Tuition Zone, and at that time was more training than the college had. And it was 100% result. So everybody passed their exams. It was astounding. And then when more training decided that they weren't going to carry on, I was able to move my center name to my own business, so SK Tuition Zone, and a lot of the certificates that went to the Home Office, and these were genuine certificates, were with SK Tuition Zone as the exam center. And that was something special for me.
Yeah, congratulations. That's such a powerful result of kind of finding you've changed people's lives.
We do. That was the one thing that I set out to do. And this is, one-to-one is really important. I think teaching in a college, it has its value. I can't say it doesn't have its value, but I think that there are a lot of students who are nervous in a college setting and don't talk to you. So you don't bring down the barriers to learning. Whereas if it's a one-to-one setting, which is what mine is, then the barriers come down. And there's a whole lot of barriers. And they never leave the room. There's no discussion outside the room about what's going on. And the bottom line is that they do well. They have a trust in you. The families trust you. There's a big thing is having trust. If you can't trust somebody, you can't learn from them, I think, because you don't understand what their motive is. So if you don't trust the motive, then why would you learn from them? And the biggest thing is, a compliment to me was a young lady whose family are quite conservative with a small c. They don't want her to go to college because there'll be mixed classes. And they said, well, why don't you go around to the lady around the corner? She, it's one-to-one, it's, ladies only. And that was a serious placing of trust in me. And it's a big thing to have that level of trust.
Wow.
It's huge to have that level of trust.
And just a great example where being that community pillar means that you reach everybody.
That's what I try to do. Obviously, I can't wear several hats in one go. That's a bit awkward. But I think that's the biggest advantage, that if you build up trust with your neighborhood and the people around you, is that they tell other people, and then your business develops from word of mouth. I think sometimes advertising, in the beginning I had to advertise to let people know I was here, and I had to put flyers to the door and talk to people, and put flyers in different places and business cards. But as I develop relationships, and the relationship has to be based on trust between you and the community. If you let them down at any point, then you've let the whole community down, right? It's a big thing. So I try to sort of offer a service that was genuine, and if I couldn't do it, I would say it. And people have been coming through the door where they've sort of wanted things that perhaps weren't, for a better word, kosher, and I would say that I've had to say, look, I'm sorry, I don't do that, but we'll do this, I said, no, you won't be doing this for me, and I won't be doing this for you, I'm sorry. And that also, I think, also developed trust, because I can't do things that are not right. You've got to follow the law. If you don't follow the law, then you're in trouble. Your business will go down the hill at some point.
Yeah, no, perfect. And sticking with your own, legally from law, but also from your own integrity and your own standpoint and what feels right.
Yes. Yes, it is very, very important. And I think I was extraordinarily lucky, because blessed, I think, because the only time I closed for any real length of time was during the first lockdown of COVID. And I had to close because of the fact that the exam centres were not open. And that was the Life in the UK exam centres, or the CELT exams. They weren't open. Driving theory wasn't open. So I didn't come into the office anyway. I was working from home, and I was doing the proofreading and that sort of thing, but I didn't see the value of coming to work if I couldn't teach the students I wanted to be. And of course, it was much stricter. The lockdown was so much stricter at that time.
Yeah.
Everybody had to wear face masks. I had 2 screens. I didn't have one screen up on my desk. I had 2 screens. And it was quite a thing, and a spraying all the time and wiping down all the time.
We're out the other side now. Is there any of those changes that you put in place, or any business changes you'd considered before COVID, that the lockdowns and COVID itself kind of made you go, right, now I'm going to seize this opportunity?
Well, yes, because we all got a sort of a bit of a windfall, I suppose, but I used all that money to update what I'd got in my office. So I used to have an ordinary handwriting whiteboard, and I now have a television screen up there. And I made a point of buying it second hand from somebody who I knew looked after their things. And he actually put the television up for me. So the television itself made it very professional. Then there's 2 mice, one for the student, one for me. And what else did I put in? Oh, the appointments, single 1-hour appointments. Before, I used to give 1.5 hours, maybe 2 hours. And a lot of that 2 hours is not wasted, but spent on doing things that were non-academic. And I think perhaps, looking back on it, I could have been more efficient with my use of time. So putting the 1-hour slots for everybody, and also I cut down the amount I was allocating to people in the week. So it meant that I could have more people coming through the door at different times, and it's more efficient. I suppose it's like going into the hospital. If you've got an appointment, you're in and out, aren't you? Instead of hanging around.
No, fabulous. And what do you think's been the biggest learning since you became a business owner?
The ability to adapt. Adaptability is absolutely essential. You have to listen to your customers. You have to listen to what people are telling you. I'll give you an example. Recently, one of my students said, we don't have to do the life in the UK to get indefinite leave to remain. So you do have to get the indefinite leave to remain. You have to do the life in the UK. But we only need to do B1 to do the extension. I said, no, you need the A2. And there's all this discussion about the different types of exam, but they've changed it so that when somebody does the B1 and they do their extension, when they're on the 10-year route or the 5-year, and they do pass the life in the UK exam, then that B1 can be used again. So they don't have to do the exam again. And all sorts of little things that change at home office level, because they change quite frequently. and you're sort of almost like a little hamster going round and round in the cage.
No, amazing. And if you were talking to somebody who is thinking about starting their own business, what advice would you give them?
The business that somebody gave me: be yourself. Don't try to be somebody else.
Amazing advice. It's so easy to be who you think people want you to be.
And sometimes you've got to work round and see what it is that suits you, what your students respond to, because obviously in my case it's students, and there's certain things that they respond to, and other people don't respond to it, and yet they respond to that, and not, it's,
yeah,
the connections are different. And also I think be true to yourself. I think that's so important, because if you're not true about, if you don't believe your work, and if you don't believe in what you're offering, then your clientele won't believe in what you're offering. It's quite simple. You've got to understand your product, and you've got to understand what you're selling as well, so to speak.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, exactly. It's perfect. And then my last question for the day is, looking back on your journey, how would you sum it up in 3 words?
Fantastic. And it sounds weird, fantastic and quite incredible, I think, for me, because when I look back, I think, wow, what was I and what am I now, you know?
It's amazing. It's such a powerful, you clearly love what you do.
I do.
And it's amazing. It's so good to hear. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for interviewing me. That's nice. It's something different for me.